In this video, I'm going to be talking about tree wells. That's where a contractor comes in and knows it's not a good idea to bury the trunks of the trees, so they build a well around the tree and raise the grade all the way around so they can do their construction project. Well, it is good to protect the base of the tree from having dirt and debris piled up around it. That's what will cause a condition known as basal crown rot, but it is not good to add additional soil on top of the existing root system. Now, interestingly enough, this was done decades ago, probably 40 years ago, and the trees are hanging in there. They're doing okay. They're not full, beautiful specimens. So one of the things I want to do is clean out all the debris, all the buildup of leaves, so that I can inspect the bases of these trees. So I got to be careful not to damage the roots or cause any additional problems. But they've had the gardeners cleaning them out, and they've kept up on it over the years. So ideally, this should dry out. But unfortunately, when it rains, this tree well becomes a water well. My concern with these two valley oaks are multifaceted. One, they're in an area where there is a cavity down underneath here, and the cavity is completely covered up. So inspecting this cavity is impossible. These boards should be removed, and any buildup of debris or any fungus should be identified, any basal crown rot. That's a big problem. There's a considerable amount of weight that's pulling this tree down over on this side, and we have a very serious decay pocket right here. And I use this probe, and it's going into the soft tissue there, about 10 inches or so on this side, and it goes in all the way around. So significant weight reduction really needs to occur on this tree, possibly a support post over on this side. There's so much going on with these trees, but you've got to really know what you're getting into. And because these boards are here, you have no idea what's going on underneath. Not to mention these boards might be rotting away. They're starting to, the trunk is starting to grow into them. So this whole area, if it's anything like the trees on the neighbor's property, it probably drops down a foot or more, maybe 2 feet. So that in itself is bad. Here's an old wound right here, and this is kind of interesting. You can see the tar that somebody put on here a long time ago, and tar has been proven to be of no value whatsoever. But this is a flush cut, and you look at it, it's easy to say, oh, it's healed. Well, healing and growing around a decay pocket are two separate things. So while the outside cambium tissue is continuing to evolve, it's very likely that this trunk is also hollow. It's just an educated guess, but because I understand what happens with this species of tree. So my recommendation, first off, is inspection. Get rid of these boards. Open it up. Get it to a point where you can see what's going on down there and clean it all out. Get all the debris out of there. Second off is going to be weight reduction, because this weakness right here is fairly significant. If this continues to lean, or if you've got any basal crown rot going on down here, this whole tree could fall down, and that would be sad. Another possibility is, because this is a weak situation, maybe put a significant prop. You'll have to put a foundation of some sort down here, and then put a big prop, something equivalent to like a 10 by 10 or 12 by 12. And for weight reduction, I can see where an old wound was taken there, but there's not a whole lot of weight reduction on this tree from the past. So I would take off quite a bit of the weight going to the right and leaving everything that's going back inwards. And that should all be done before a prop is put in, if you choose to do so. So you've got some potential problems going on here. You want to keep it away from the building and off of the neighbor's house. But my biggest concern is the possibility of total tree failure. I like to look at the wounds on the trees as well. This is on a live oak, and you've got the top cut right there, which was done appropriately, leaving the branch color. And here's two flush cuts. They're not very large wounds, but I'm opting to take this entire branch on the right off, so I want to see what it looks like on the inside. The end of the branch is dead, so that's justification for taking it off completely. But I was curious. I wonder how far in this decay goes. So making decisions about what to do on a tree is often based upon what you find. So I went ahead and made a chainsaw cut, and well, look at that. It's not as bad as I expected. Oftentimes it's so much worse. So when you're making decisions about weight reduction or reasons why you're doing certain pruning cuts, it's very important to understand the individual strengths and weaknesses on the species of tree that you're working on. These live oaks back here, they're relatively strong trees, but quite often I'll get into them with very, very large decay wounds, usually 15, 20-year-old wounds that will rot out. Those last cuts that I made there, I was kind of surprised there. I expected them to be decayed much more, but that's based upon what I've seen in this type of tree in the past. Now, in the same breath, if you're working on a tree like a silver maple or a birch or a tree that you know decays really rapidly, then the decisions you make about those types of trees will be different than a hardy tree. Also, there are certain types of trees like the platanus, the plane tree, the sycamore is what we call them in the States here. Those trees seem to completely absorb the wounds and will carry on with very little decay. I'm always perplexed when I see things like that. What is it about one tree that makes it capable of absorbing the wound and not rotting out, where other trees, it may absorb the wound, but the inside will hollow out and get quite rotten? So it's important to really understand your trees. Chinese elm, that's another interesting one. I've seen Chinese elm trees that were completely butchered and pollarded or cut way back and completely grew around the old wound, and new branches would come back. In the future, I get the opportunity of cutting them down for one reason or another, and I love to dissect. I want to see what it looks like. And the Chinese elms, they seem to tolerate those wounds much better than a lot of other species. So know your trees. That's most important. Thanks a lot.